Today we'll be looking at Parshat Matot Masei, Tribes, Journeys, from Numbers chapter 30, verse 2 through 36:13. We read, Moshe spoke to the tribal heads, Numbers chapter 30, verse 2. The word Matot, which means tribes, also means staffs. Staffs symbolize stability and permanence, like a staff which is hard and strong. Masei, however, means journeys and alludes to a changing and non-permanent situation. The fact that the two Torah portions of Matot and Masei are often read together teaches us that even when we are traveling on a journey, for vacation or business, we must be as vigilant and unchanging in our religious observance as when we are at home. Insight taken from Likutei Sichos. In Matot, Moshe conveys the laws regarding the annulment of vows to the heads of the tribes of Israel. War is waged against Midian for their role in plotting in the moral destruction of Israel. And the Torah gives a detailed account of the war spoils and how they were allocated amongst the people, the warriors, the Levites, and the high priest. The tribes of Reuben and Gad, later joined by the half-tribe of Manasseh, asked for the lands east of the Jordan as their portion in the Promised Land, stating that they are prime pasture lands for their cattle. Moshe is angered at first by the request, but later agrees on the condition that they first join and lead in Israel's conquest of the lands west of the Jordan. The 42 journeys and encampments of Israel are listed from the Exodus to their encampment on the plains of Moab across the river from the land of Canaan. The boundaries of the Promised Land are given, and cities of refuge are designated as havens and places of exile for inadvertent murderers. The daughters of Zelophehad marry within their own tribe of Manasseh, so that the estate which they inherit from their father should not pass to the province of another tribe. Parshat summary taken from Chabad.org. First Aliyah, the power of words. The Torah specifically forbids a person to add or subtract from the mitzvot, as brought down in Deuteronomy 13:1. Why then is it permissible to make a vow that forbids what the Torah permits? The laws of vows are truly original in the sense that one who takes a vow makes a permitted item forbidden. It is as if he exercises the power to write his own Torah, permitting this and forbidding that. He can do this because everything in creation draws its light force from the Torah. Therefore, everything is rooted in the Torah. Consequently, he can transform that which is permitted into that which is forbidden with the full application of Torah law, as if the Torah itself forbade him. Insight taken from Rebbe Nachman in Likutei Halachot 5, paragraph 2a. Rabbi Avraham ben Yaakov Greenbaum of Azamra says the following about speech and vows. An important theme in Parshas Matot is the care with which we must use words and language because of their very great power. Language is the quote-unquote glass that may either reflect or obscure the truth. When a man wants to make a vow to Hashem or to swear an oath, placing a prohibition upon himself, he must not profane his word. He must do according to all that comes forth from his mouth, as seen in Numbers 30, verse 3. We live in an age, however, when streams of verbiage flow forth at us in such quantities from all directions. Billboards, papers, magazines, TV, radio, internet, and on, that we can easily become almost completely desensitized to words, their meaning and importance. We take it for granted that politicians make promises and undertakings which they have no intention of keeping, that quote-unquote experts shoot forth with torrents of instant comment which are as enduring as rotten fruit, that commercial advertising has turned the destruction of language into an art form, and that the media is filled with every kind of irreverence and unholiness. As a medicine against this desensitization, the Torah asks us to think hard about the words we bring forth from our own mouths, and particularly the personal commitments we make. While we often focus on language as the means of communication with each other, with ourselves and with God, the concept of the vow is one where we use our God-given gift of speech to elevate ourselves spiritually. One might take a vow to dedicate something of worth to the temple or charity, or to erect a personal boundary and abstain from some undesirable behavior that has proved a pitfall for oneself and others. The father of the vow was Jacob, when he came to Mount Moriah and had his dream of the ladder. In the morning he set up a stone, the prototype temple altar, and vowed that if God would protect him and provide his needs, he would make this the house of God and tithe all he received, as brought down in Genesis 28:20. David the Messiah also swore and vowed that he would not rest until he found a place and a dwelling place for God, the Holy Temple. Psalms 132, 1-5. Because of the extreme seriousness of an oath or vow to God, the Torah codes advise us not to take actual oaths or vows unless we are thoroughly conversant with the intricacies of their laws. Much of the discussion in the relevant Talmudic tractates of Nedarim, Nazir, and Shavuos is bound up with careful analysis of the meanings and implications of different kinds of phraseology. The larger part of the section on vows in our Parsha is taken up with special laws that apply to vows made by an unmarried, betrothed, or married woman, which may be nullified by her father and or husband. This is because vows she may make, even with the best intentions, could cause complications in her domestic life that might affect others. Example given, if she were to vow to abstain from certain foods or not to use cosmetics, etc. Her freedom is circumscribed by her responsibilities to others, and the Torah gives her father and or husband the last word on whether to uphold her vows. Indeed, we should not make vows or commitments that can affect others detrimentally. The point is not to deter us from making commitments, but rather to impress upon us the care with which we should go about making them, and the seriousness with which we must uphold them. Second aliyah, righteous violence. Avenge the vengeance of the children of Israel upon the Midianites. Numbers 31:2. Why only upon the Midianites, but not the Moabites, who also sent their daughters to cause Israel to sin? Because the Moabites got involved for fear of Israel, as seen in Numbers 22, 2-6, but the Midianites entered a fight that was not theirs. Another explanation given by Rashi is that God said to spare the Moabites because of the two fine creatures which I shall extract from them, Ruth the Moabite and Naamah the Ammonite, wife of King Solomon. It is interesting to note that the Kohanim were chosen from the tribe of Levi after they chose Hashem's side and smote their brothers, fellow Israelites, who had bowed down to the golden calf. Likewise, Pinchas was also chosen for the act of slaying his brother, a fellow Israelite, for publicly sinning with the Midianite woman. These were both acts of cleansing that actually spared the rest of Israel from following in this sin by causing them to be an example. Hashem chose for his priesthood brave men who would exact the kind of cleansing required for sin, thus their role in the killing of animals to atone for sin. Hashem himself exacts judgment on the earth for the purpose of cleansing it, that the measure of evil in the world would not rise up so much as to warrant its complete destruction again, as in the days of Noah. This is similar to when nations must rise up against violence in order to save the world, as in the first two world wars. Evil groups of people must be killed in order to spare the rest of the world of tyranny and bloodshed. Third aliyah, priorities. Look at how those tribes describe what they want to do. We read in Numbers 32:16, "We will build here sheepfolds for our flocks and towns for our children." It's a distortion of priorities. They put the animals, i.e. their possessions, before their children. Erica Brown teaches these people were willing to let go of a sacred, commanded vision to bolster their own material existence, while Moshe's own sincere appeals to enter the land were rejected. Rashi teaches, notice which they mentioned first. They were more concerned about the flocks than about the children. Several verses later, however, Moshe tells them, build towns for your children and sheepfolds for your flocks. 32:24. Moshe reminds them of what is really important. It is a message for all of us, first people, and creating a future for our people, then and only then our quote-unquote stuff. This Parsha insight was brought down by Jeffrey K. Salkin in the JPS B'nai Mitzvah Torah commentary. Fifth aliyah, cleansing our lives. God instructs the Jewish people to eradicate all of Canaan's inhabitants and destroy their idols after crossing the Jordan River. So too, we must rid our lives of all idolatry, anything that keeps us from putting Hashem first in our lives and from heeding the words found in Devarim, Deuteronomy 6:5-7. Ve'ahavta et Hashem Elohecha bechol levavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol meodecha. Thou shalt love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be upon your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children. Sixth and seventh aliyot, cities of refuge. Kabbalist Rabbi Yitzhak Ginsburg has the following to say regarding the cities of refuge. Before the Jewish people enter the land of Israel, God commands Moshe to designate 6 cities of refuge. The Torah laws of the cities of refuge are unique. If a person has accidentally killed another, he may flee to one of these cities, 3 on each side of the Jordan River. As long as he is within the boundaries of the city, no relatives of the deceased are allowed to harm him. If he wants to be safe, the perpetrator of this unintentional crime must remain in the city of refuge, not leaving its confines until the death of the Kohen HaGadol, the high priest. Spiritually, the ultimate city of refuge is the Torah, as God commanded Yehoshua, and you shall study it day and night. When we run to the Torah, to run in Hebrew is ratz, cognate to the word for will, ratzon. When a person runs towards something, he is activating very strong will. So when we run to the Torah, we express a strong will to immerse completely in its depths, taking refuge in its rectifying words. When our consciousness is totally in line with the Torah, we will no longer be vulnerable to harm, and more importantly, will no longer be in a state of mind that would allow us to hurt another, even unintentionally. Kabbalah analyzes phenomena in the Torah by relating them to each other. The Hebrew word for refuge, miklat, appears 10 times in this Torah section, in 2 groups of 5. The first parallel concept that should immediately come to mind is the 10 Commandments, which were also given on 2 tablets of 5. The fact that the word miklat appears 10 times relates the cities of refuge to the essence of the number 10. This consummate number corresponds to the 10 Sephirot, the divine emanations through which God created the world, and to the 10 powers of the soul, which we must rectify and illuminate within the divine light of our souls. We must activate all 10 powers of our soul to run to the city of refuge and integrate its message. In the Talmud, we learn that in biblical times, road signs pointing to the nearest city of refuge were liberally scattered throughout the land of Israel. Each sign had 2 words, miklat, miklat. The numerical value of miklat is 179, a prime number. The value of 2 times miklat is 358, the numerical value of Mashiach. So we see that the road signs pointing to the city of refuge actually points one toward a new Messianic consciousness. When a person flees to the city of refuge, the new consciousness of Torah, and particularly the inner Messianic dimension of the Torah, he first must become totally absorbed in and enamored of it, never wanting to leave. In this beginning state, the Torah encompasses his entire being and consciousness, and it is not critically important to what extent he understands all that he studies. The most important inner sense for him to develop is that this infinite divine light and wisdom has been given to him as an undeserved gift. The more that a person develops this sense, the more that he becomes absorbed into the Messianic Torah consciousness. In order for his new Messianic consciousness to remain an internal part of his being, protecting him from harm and from harming others, the person must redirect his experience, consciously integrating it into his being. The desire to integrate the object of one's love and desire into his being is the logical second stage of this process. The classic text of Chassidut, the Tanya, explains that only the Torah can fully surround the person while simultaneously being fully within him. This is because the wisdom of the Torah is infinite. In the case of finite wisdom, either the person does not understand it, in which case the wisdom surrounds him, or he totally understands it, in which case the wisdom is within him. As it is finite, it cannot surround him and be within him simultaneously. Only infinite wisdom includes both dynamics of absorption and integration. This thought is reflected in Psalms 1:2, which describes the happy person who goes in the ways of the Torah. The first part of the verse reads, "His desire is only in the Torah of God." This is the stage of absorption. The Torah is God's, and it is the only desire of the person being absorbed in it. The second part of the verse reads, "And in his Torah he will immerse himself day and night." At this point, the Torah has already been integrated into the person's soul, so much so that it is even referred to as his, the studier's Torah. This sums up our discussion for Parshat Matot Masei. For more teachings, information about our community and conversion to Judaism, please visit our website at www.bneyavraham.com. Thanks for listening. Shalom.